Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, and glad you could attend. Come inside, Movie Maniacs, as we take a look at the highly anticipated, much talked about sequel to X-Men First Class. Hitting the big screen this weekend is X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, in this movie, we get the story of the mutants fighting humans. It's in the future, and man, they've the cities have been annihilated and wasted, especially New York, in the aftermath of this war, which is still going on. The mutants are losing, though, thanks to Trask's Sentinels, which are adaptive robots, which can target specifically mutants and annihilate them in nasty, nasty fashion. And so the mutants, in the last-ditch effort, put their differences aside and come up with a plan to send someone back in time to stop the event that ended up causing the inevitable war between humans and mutants. And that person was, yes, Wolverine. And we see Wolverine go back to the 70s and visit the younger versions of the mutants that he's known for many years and see how he tries to convince them that they need to stop the war by stopping this one event. Wow, this, I will say, is probably one of the most solid comic book films to come out, not only this year, but in the last probably couple of years. It is one of the things I really enjoyed about this film right off the bat was just the fact that they mixed the new and the old characters, actors, the cast that we've loved, that we loved the casting in the first X-Men, and seeing them back on screen and in mutant action was fantastic. Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart falling right into place. Halle Berry, the very talented Halle Berry, coming back, even though it's only a very short time as Storm. Great to see her back. You got Iceman, you've got Colossus in here, really great. And then we get some other mutants in here that weren't in the. We get Blink, and we get who's awesome powers. I loved Blink's powers, and I'm more DC than Marvel, so I wasn't really familiar with a lot of these characters, but loved them. This film opens with a fantastic action scene in here, and it really helps set up the tone of this film, which is dark. This film is dark throughout. While you might have some touching moments in here, like you've seen in the trailer, where you get Patrick Stewart at one point talking cerebrally with his younger self, you get some great moments in here like that, some deep and touching moments. This film overall is darker than the first one by far, and I really liked that tone. Really this foreboding feeling and this frustration with the characters as well, going, you need to do this because they got conflicts. This is not the happy group that we saw. Well, they weren't exactly happy at the end of First Class, but this isn't the group that we saw at the end of First Class. All these characters have grown and changed, which also was a refreshing for this film. Really enjoyed the fact that they aren't the same people that we left 10 years ago, story-wise, and I loved that change in it. Now, McAvoy and Fassbender's really got a fantastic chemistry together. Jennifer Lawrence falling right into Mystique, being badass and beautiful and kicking ass, and love her Mystique character, bringing emotion to it as well. There's some really deep scenes with her. And the scene that you saw, the awkward end credits scene in Spider-Man, does look a lot better when it's put into context. I will say that, and they touched it up a bit as well. It made more meaning, and it had more impact. Why they threw that at the end of Spider-Man 2, I don't know, but it really didn't fit there. But it was fitting here in the film, especially getting a chance, once again, to see Jennifer Lawrence kick ass, which she does throughout. Very strong female character that is really driven with one goal. Now, you get Peter Dinklage in here as well, who he doesn't get a lot of screen time, but the screen time that he does have, I really liked his Trask. Really came off as this guy who does know a whole lot, and he's really, he thinks he's in the right with what he's doing, and his unusual philosophy towards mutants, everything about his character, even though he didn't get a whole lot of screen time, Dinklage doing what he does best and bringing layers to a character and screen presence, which he has in every scene he's in. Now, one of the new characters we got to introduce to was Quicksilver, played by Evan Peters. Now, he's not in the whole film, but he's in a chunk of the film, and let me tell you, every scene he's in, I loved this character. Loved what they did with him. In fact, they have one scene in here that's just phenomenal, giving you the perspective from his point of view when he's moving really fast. loved that scene. Probably my favorite scene in this movie was that scene. Just the way it was directed and handled and everything about it, I really enjoyed. As things escalate in the plot, you'll be on the edge of your seat wondering if they're actually going to be able to pull off this plan, because with some of these films, you can't really tell. And Bryan Singer really keeps you on the edge of your seat and keeps you moving through this film to where you're never checking your watch to see, wow, how much time do we have left? Now, you may think, well, there's a whole clout of superheroes in here, you know, much like we had Spider-Man 3. Why is this a little different? Well, we've been introduced to all these characters before, the majority of them, except Quicksilver and maybe a couple others, so we don't need to waste a lot of origin times. Plus, mutants are actually fairly easy to do their origin story if you want to get down to the bare level. It's just like, they have this power, they're this guy, alright, let's go. So it's a little bit easier to handle mutants than it is some of these other superheroes, and I really liked that as well. Film kept moving, edited well, sound was great, and special effects were also fantastic. There was a little too much exposition for me of revisiting films of future past, if you will, in here, like they wrote it for those people who may have not seen the other films, and I could have done with a little bit less of that. Made me go, we get it, we've seen it, let's move on. Hugh Jackman, I must say, is still surprising me with the Wolverine character. He's played this character so much, you'd think he'd get tired of it, but he still brings something new to it. In fact, I loved his Wolverine in Days of Future Past. This is probably my favorite performance of the Wolverine. It really has matured this character and made it his own and brought a lot of great layers to him, and he's still doing it even in this film. Now, the special effects at the end scene, I will say, are these superhero films trying to outdo each other? Fantastic spectacle, fantastic visual spectacle. It actually kind of made sense of what they did, but still was extremely over the top, epic, huge destruction. So I don't know if they needed to go that far, but it did make for some great visuals, that's for sure. In general, folks, this is probably one of the better superhero films to come out in the last couple of years. There are some plot holes in here and some things that make you kind of question, and some of these performers, while they're, you know, they got all these great actors in here, and unfortunately when you have so many great actors in here, not all of them get the screen time or the presence that you want them to have, and that does happen in this as well. Still, I gave X-Men Days of Future Past 4 1/4 stubs, okay? Liked it just a little bit more than Captain America after thinking about it more, and it really is a solid standalone film. It doesn't feel like a middle film. It doesn't feel like they're trying to set it up for other films like Spider-Man. No, this film really kind of stands on its own 2 feet, and you know, if it ended here now, you could live with that, though you stay till the end credits and you will see a scene that will be setting up for the next film, X-Men Apocalypse. I actually had to Google it. I watched the scene and I'm like, wow, this is a pretty badass scene. What's going on and who is this guy? You know, so I had to go home and Google it. I admit it. I'm not afraid to admit it. And I found out and I'm like, that's pretty badass. So if you're kind of confused with that end, just Google it and it'll definitely get explained to you, though it may spoil some things for the next X-Men film, which I am definitely looking forward to. And that'll about do it for us here at The Final Cut. Till next time, folks, remember, keep that ticket stub.